watching Morning at NTV.
Morning at NTV. In 2014, the government of Uganda held the first national menstrual hygiene management conference in Kampala. Now, this followed research that showed that many female learners were dropping out of school due to challenges that they face due to menstruation. Subsequently, the ministry signed a charter committing to promote menstrual hygiene management. Now, this year, with schools closed, the ministry is still committed to the exercise. Now, today, globally, approximately 52% of the female population, that is 26% of the total population of reproductive age, the beginning of menstruation in a girl marks the start of reproductive life. Why is this so important of a conversation to have in relation to the improving of the menstrual hygiene and menstrual health? Joining us for this conversation, we have Dr. Tony Mukasalu Sambu, that is the Assistant Commissioner for Primary Education, and Miss Rosette Nyanyanzi, the Technical Advisor on Gender at the Ministry of Education. It's a great morning to have you here today. Please bear with us. We're seated like this for purposes of social distancing.
Yes.
Let me start with Madame Rosette here. Why is it cardinal that we can have this kind of conversation today?
It's important that we have this conversation because much as our children right now are at home, but menstruation will not stop.
Oh, yeah.
So if we don't talk about it, even during this lockdown, we are likely to lose them completely as a sector.
Okay.
What is happening right now is there is a lot of gender-based violence in the communities, and some of the drivers is failure to provide the basic requirements. So we really need to bring this issue out and talk about it, that even amidst these challenges that we are going through, we need to talk about menstruation.
Okay.
Because women and girls will continue menstruating, whether they are in lockdown, whether there is no food in the house, it is a natural thing. So we need to talk about it.
Do you believe that parents have actually are more actually well informed and equipped to help the young ones navigate through the menstrual hygiene and the management?
Some parents may not be very much empowered to talk about these issues of growing up and sexual maturation. And I think this explains why we lose so many of our children.
Oh, yeah.
These children come from homes. If your parent has been able to talk about these issues, then you would be able to manage, because these are natural challenges that we go through. You would be able to manage. But if the parent has not had an opportunity to talk with you, then it means we are likely to get challenges along the way. So many parents may not have the information. That is why me and you and Doctor here to talk about this issue.
Absolutely.
We know the parents are right now at home, and this is the time for them to listen in and get to know what is this issue called menstruation. How does it affect my daughter? How does it affect my son? How does it affect the country?
Absolutely.
And I think that is the discussion that we need to have.
Doctor, she has hinted about affecting the country. Today in the Daily Monitor on page 6, they're saying the dropout number of students, especially before they reach P7, is alarming. And one of the key drivers here is the menstruation management. Like most girls in rural schools, they're not well equipped with how best to go about it. They feel a little bit uncomfortable in school. What is the ministry doing about this?
Ministry is aware of this, and we are doing quite a lot, as we shall talk more if you probe us accordingly. There is a lot that is going on, because we are aware that during the menstruation periods, a girl is likely to lose between 3 to 4 days in a month. And if you multiply that on an annual basis, these girls really lose much. And no wonder many times when PLOE results come, you find that the girls are not performing as well as the boys most of the times. And this could be some of the reasons. And the dropout rates again, because if the girl is not well catered for during this period, She feels bad at school. She feels intimidated at school. She feels inferior. And therefore, the interest for school goes on dwindling. And at the end of the day, she drops out. I'm even worried about this lockdown. Definitely, by the end of it, many of our girls are going to find themselves out of school. That is one other reason why we have to keep talking about it to the parents and guardians so that they continue to keep our girls better, continue to talk to them, consoling them, and ensuring them that this is a natural trend. It's not a curse.
Doctor, right there, when you're worried about the lockdown and all that, what can parents and guardians do, as well as schools, to help the young girls manage the menstrual times?
Yeah, that's what ministry does now. There is a lot of sensitization. There is a lot of awareness, driving awareness, using our senior men and senior women at school level to talk to all children. By the way, this is another important message to colleague teachers and guardians. We need to ensure that boys get to know what happens to girls. It's not menstrual hygiene is not basically a predominance for girls. It should be shared so that everybody can appreciate. So at home, now I've told you what we do at school. We equip the senior woman office, senior man office with all the necessary materials, such that when girls experience this, they don't get overwhelmed, they don't get scared. Now at home, we are calling upon the parents to get interested in what happens to their daughters. Everybody should be concerned in the home. When this time comes, there should be extra care, there should be more talk to the girls, and make sure they are comfortable with it. It should not be taken as a sickness, because it is a natural trend that will continue every month.
Mr. Rosaid, he has hinted on something that brings us to our culture, beliefs and trends. Well, we're in Kampala, but in some other areas beyond Kampala, there's some culture ties to the menstrual hygiene. How do we demystify these myths surrounding the menstrual hygiene?
That is why it's talking about raising awareness and trying to engage our communities and parents to talk about these issues. For example, I've seen in communities where a girl starts menstruation and then they say, you are now a woman. What does that mean to this girl who is 13 years? If you start saying you're a woman, then issues of child marriage come in. So we have been engaging with our communities. We are using our culture and religious leaders to talk about these myths and misconceptions concerning menstruation. Other people will tell you, you're too dirty to sleep with your father. In one of the districts in eastern Uganda, I was told that when you start menstruation, you leave your father's home. You live with your father's home and then you go to your auntie. What does that mean? That whatever the father's been giving you is now dependent on the auntie, who may not be economically empowered to support. And that explains why these girls end up getting pregnant and ending up in what? In child marriages. So we have been engaging communities as Ministry of Education. We are engaging the religious and cultural leaders so that we talk with our parents. We have programs on positive parenting, that as you're providing for the basic requirements in the home, can we look at the provisions for the girls as basic requirements? And amidst this period where we are going through this, many families are only focusing on food and what. But even when you give me a food and you have not taken care of my natural challenge, then you have not provided the basic requirements.
Right there, the ministry is at the helm of making sure that all this comes to light. What strategy does the ministry have to reach out to the vulnerable girls in school who can't afford the sanitary towels when these days come? Do we have any partners coming in? Do we have strategies that are from up to down to reach them?
Yes, the ministry has a number of strategies. And for us as a sector, when we're looking at this issue, we don't look at the sanitary pad alone. It is a holistic issue. This girl needs information. That is the first thing. but the girl also needs a safe and conducive environment. So that is what we have been able to do. We, as a sector, our emphasis has been on addressing the hardware and then the software. We are calling upon our partners, we are calling upon our parents to come in. For example, when we are at school, what do we provide as ministry? We make sure that our schools have gender-responsive facilities, where we have a changing room, where we have a washroom, where we have water, where we have disposal facilities. Because even an issue of disposal can stop me from coming to school. So what we are emphasizing in our new constructions is to make sure that all these facilities are conducive for the girl child. And then from that, we have empowered our senior women teachers and senior men teachers to be able to talk about these issues with our children. And then we have provided resource materials, because much as we are saying the ministry should be giving, the girl needs her own information.
Oh, yes.
We have provided readers so that even when you're going home, you can sit back and read to get to know what is happening to you. Last year, we got a grant from one of our partners to provide sanitary pads to the most needy, because we are all needy, but there are those that are really vulnerable.
The levels vary, of course.
Yes, so we are trying to provide those the subsidies, and the sanitary pads are part of that.
Okay.
Yes.
That is giving some hope at the end of the tunnel.
But
Mr. Mukasa.
like we always say, we have over 10 million girls, and every day they will be menstruating. It may not be sustainable. So what are we doing in addition to the provisions? We have built the capacity of the girls to be able to make their own sanitary pads. Reason, your mother menstruated, your grandmother menstruated. What is it that they used in the 19th century that we can be able to improve on in this 21st century? So that capacity has also been built within our schools to make sure that if I don't access the pads from the market,
you can make your
you
own.
can still make your own pad.
That's a great
What
one.
we want at the end of the day, that you should be able to menstruate with dignity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mukasa, how do we bring in the boy child here? When I was in school, like I was shared earlier on, we had content and information that used to come in every Wednesday. They would brief us on these issues, and I grew up knowing how best to protect a girl child and how to stand for them in such times. Today, how do we engage the boy child and the males in this conversation so that they don't demean the girls at school, but they stay supportive?
Yes, at school level, there is what we call the hygiene parade.
Okay.
And the hygiene parade is supposed to be partly weekly and then daily. There is a daily one where learners line in front of their classrooms and they are checked on the hygiene. But then the weekly is where the senior man and senior woman assemble the entire school and address them on this, especially the menstrual hygiene management issues. So all the boys get to know what is happening. I have an experience when my son was, I think, around B3, and they were in a boarding school with my daughters, and the daughters were a bit older than him. So we could go do shopping for them, and then we could buy the sanitary pads for the girls. So one day he came and whispered to me, "Daddy, Mommy buys bread for these girls, but she never buys for me." Because the boy thought that these pads was bread. So I had to go at length to explain to him openly, and I told him, your sisters go through something that you don't go through. And when they go through that period, they need the pads. That's not bread. I even told Mom to open them so that he could really see.
Understand.
And from that day, he appreciated, and he continued even to love the sisters a lot more.
So in the wake of COVID-19, all kids at home and they're playing with one another, how do we have this information sent down, especially the parents? You know, there is a sense of comfort.
Exactly.
How do we draw the comfort between the child and the parent or the guardian to start to have this conversation? He was in position to do that because you're a friend to your son. But imagine some scenarios, some parents are tough, and yet these are natural phenomenons. So how do we strike a balance?
I think I have to throw this message to the parents out there and guardians. Please be closer to your children, both boys and girls. And if you are close to them, you will get to know a lot, and you will help a lot of situations that would have gone berserk. So it is important that these children are free with their parents, and the parents are also free with their children, telling them exactly what happens, telling the boys what happens to the girls, and telling the girls what happens to the boys, and they grow together, but knowing and appreciating each and everyone's changes in life, because these are natural trends, they are natural changes.
Absolutely.
And constant talk, continuous engagement is very, very important. Raising awareness of all stakeholders.
As you're winding up, Miss Rosette Nanyanzi, what could be your message to the young girl child who is watching NTV this morning, to a mother or a guardian who has not been comfortable to have this conversation on the ground or in the villages? Or it could be an auntie, but is like, how do I even start this conversation?
To the girls, menstruation does not mean that you are now adults.
Yeah.
What we want is for you to be able to remain in school and complete your education. And then to the parents, especially the fathers, these are your daughters. Please prioritize providing the basic requirements for them. To the mothers, we need to talk to our girls about what is happening to them. Issues of growth and sexual maturation should be discussions that we bring to the table as we discuss any other things. And then to the boys, we are looking at you as allies to your sisters, and then we are relying on you to be good fathers in the future. So you need to get this conversation running to be able to support your future wives, your future daughters, and everyone. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mukasa, to the leaders on the ground, because I understand some myths can only be disrupted by leaders. If we have an LC chairperson or a church leader who confronts a family that tries to banish a young girl, what could be your word to them?
Definitely, but before I go to that, I need to remind the viewers that we are celebrating the International Menstrual Hygiene Day on the 28th.
Okay.
And this happens annually. 28th of May is the International Day for Menstruation Hygiene.
So how are we celebrating it?
Under the lockdown, of course. And this one,
This is one of the activities.
We already
we are already celebrating it. And out there, I want the public to use the 28th to make sure you talk to your children about menstrual hygiene. Please talk to your daughters, talk to your sons, talk to everybody. Let us make sure that this day is celebrated in a way of awareness and dissemination.
How do parents access this information you're telling them to share with the children?
We have printed the materials which Rosette hinted on earlier on, and these guidelines were distributed to all schools, and many children took them home. So the parents can be able to read all of this. And even the lessons we give over the radio and TV, don't hesitate to ask the teachers. Any teacher who comes to teach them has information about menstrual hygiene management. Please feel free. Now the question you put about leaders, we call upon our leaders at all levels to get interested in the menstrual hygiene of our girls. The myths should stop. The fear of a parent talking to their children about menstrual hygiene should stop. We must, and the theme for this year's celebration, it's time for action.
Time for action.
It is now time for action.
So we need to get involved.
Need to get involved.
Absolutely. Oh, there you have it. That is Mr. Tony Mukasa Lusambu and Rosette Nanyanzi. Mr. Mukasa is the Assistant Commissioner for Primary Education, and Ms. Rosette Nanyanzi is a Technical Advisor at the Ministry of Education in the Gender Department. Thank you so much for this conversation. Let's have this conversation run on the different digital platforms, and let's talk to our children as we celebrate the International Menstrual Hygiene Management Day on the 28th. That will take us for a break, and we'll be back with more.